All right, Sherman On here with Top of Mind. Here visiting with Bruce over here at Cellar 70. Number one, Bruce, appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today.
My pleasure.
Wanted you just to share with the audience a little bit about your story and kind of what got you here.
That's a great story. I started at the American Club in Kohler, Wisconsin. That's where I got my fever, my niche for the wine business. I was very fortunate to start a job there where they opened up, and I worked in the immigrant room and hung out with a sommelier at that time who was the head wine guy for the immigrant room. And that's how I got my interest in wine. And then it ballooned. I had an opportunity to meet the vice president of Hyatt Hotels and Resorts from Chicago, who was eating dinner there. And I got a chance to get a job, my first job at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare, famous Hyatt Regency O'Hare by the O'Hare Airport in 1983, 84. I can't remember that far back. And from there, it really blossomed. First of all, I've never lived in Chicago. And I was exposed to all this food and beverage mantra of stuff, all the stuff, all the cool stuff. And I started out as an executive steward and worked my way all the way through up to food and beverage director, beverage manager. I opened up several hotels. I was the main man to open up the famous Hyatt Regency Waikoloa on the Big Island, where there were 17 bars, and there was a wine list of 1,000 bottles on one list alone. I traveled all over the world. When I started with Hyatt at a Hyatt Regency O'Hare, I took all the programs. And I used to hang out at a famous wine shop called Sam's Wine Shop downtown. That's where I learned and met Dennis Cole, who was the manager for 20-some years up at the Minocqua store.
Okay.
So I got very, very, very much involved with wine. And wine took me all over the world, everywhere. Took me to the famous restaurants, took me to every famous opening that was in Chicago. I learned everything I possibly could about wine from guys like Dennis Cole and the owner at that time at the Sam's Wine Shop, which at that time was the largest wine shop in North America.
Wow.
Yeah, just had some great experiences, and I was very fortunate because I had good people looking out for me. I worked at the American Club for 4 years during college and was the bartender there and studied under him and took off from there. So when I took the job at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare, I got into their wine program. So then I developing their wine core list for all 100 and some hotels at the time. There's more hotels, but back then there was only so many hotels. So I got to travel. And back in the heydays when the wine industry boom in 1982 to 83, 84, 85. Wine was huge and you were treated like king. And so we were developing wine lists and going everywhere, going to California, going all over the place. And just learning a lot about wine and food and beverage. Really was ahead of the curve because it was took so many courses. I was very fortunate to go to a seminar with the famous Evan Goldstein, who was one of the youngest sommeliers in North America at the time. He started a restaurant with his mom at Square One in Union Square in San Francisco. And I met up with him about 6-7 years ago, and we almost had a heart attack because I took all of his classes on Chateau Estates. And now he runs a big company called Full Circle Wine Solutions. And I've been fortunate to go all over the place, from Portugal to Italy, to experience all those wonderful places. I haven't been to New Zealand, obviously, and I haven't been to Australia, but I'll get there eventually. But I'm very fortunate to work here. We have when I took the job, I met Dennis Cole at an event in Stevens Point, John Noel's Boys and Girls Thing. So I was part of that, and I was part of the program of getting that up. I was the director of operations at that Holiday Inn at the time, and we helped facilitate that event in the beginning. And that's how I met John Noel, and very supportive of John Noel and what he has done with Boys and Girls Club. And that event is turned into a huge event And our Stevens Point store, Jeff Tavies, who handles that event now, does an amazing job with the wines and the bourbons and the beers and everything. And without people like him, that event wouldn't exist anymore. I'm no longer in that area, so I'm here doing my own events, and I have over a dozen, 2 dozen events I do every year. So wine has afforded me so many things. The culture in the wine industry around the world is really neat because everyone is nice. There's no one not nice in the wine industry. And all the political barriers that occur in our world, when you go to the wine country, everybody wants to talk about one thing, and that's wine, and how it works with us, and how the food blends, and whether you go to Spain, whether you go to Italy, Suave, and they just talk about one wine there, or whether you go to Champagne, wherever you go, all they really talk about is wine. They really don't talk about anything else and how it fits in. They talk about family and how it works and how the industry is working. And the industry is doing well. But this brought me to this area because my parents' health was going south, and so I wanted to come in this area. So I was doing the Boys and Girls event, and I saw Dennis Cole, who I used to hang out with at Sam's Club in Chicago.
Yeah.
And cool cat, knew everything about wine, been to Germany, been to Italy, been to France, been all the fancy places. He's really kind of one of the icons, one of like the godfathers. He hung out at Sam's, and he worked for the city of Chicago as a painter. But in the summer times, he would vacation up here at Fence Lake, up in Naquan. And then he told the owners, he said, you guys should start selling wine. You can sell a lot more wine than you sell booze, because people drink more wine than they drink booze. So they flew Triggs plane to Corbel in Sonoma. And they saw the famous Corbel tasting room, and Triggs says, I want that tasting room in my store in Monaco. Monaco was the first store to be called Cellar 70. The reason why it's called Cellar 70 is because it's Highway 70 West. And they created that name. But, my relationship with Dennis goes, she's back 25 years, 30 years, when I used to hang out with all the icons, whether it was Francis Ford Coppola I had lunch with, Robert Mondavi Sr., the Louis Martin family, the Chapelet family. Just was amazing road traveled. It was a amazing adventure, and I wouldn't change it. I kind of would have changed if my parents' health got a little bit better, but I wouldn't have changed that. Did several wonderful events. We do several events in this area that we support heavily, the Boys and Girls, Birds and Art, Boys and everything. So there's something we touch just about everything, as you know. We do a lot of volunteer work. One thing about the grocery business you can learn so much about is there's marketing, there's social media, there's accounting, there's everything, and you're allowed to get involved with the community. You have a good grocery store, you see that community involvement. So I still have the passion for wine. I do a lot of collecting, and I do a lot of travel, I do a lot of writing. We got the Sonoma Summit coming up, so just a lot of good things, a lot of good people in the wine world that just like you have this passion to expand their knowledge, and it's an ever-ending pursuit of knowledge. There's a lot of certifications in the business, the Sommelier, Master Somms. It takes a lot of time to achieve those things, and some of the best people in the business have those certifications. I don't have that certification because I never really had the time. I always had to work. But I was with Hyatt Hotels and Resorts for 12 years and opened up 3 or 4 properties. Yeah. So.
Is there anything particular that you're excited about that's happening here that you want to let the community know about?
Well, we changed culture here. We changed the way people thought about wine and how I incorporated with fundraisers and how I incorporated events that understand that wine is a celebration. It's a celebration. You should always share a bottle of wine, as they say. And the events that are coming up. we did the neighborhood place event at Granite Peak, which is a yearly thing we do, and we're very proud of that. And nothing really now in January, February, but as spring comes and summer comes, we're full of events. Whether we do the women's community events or the Women in Action, I can't remember them, but I know I get calls, and I'm proud to be associated with those events, and they allow me here to be involved in those events. And Trigg Solberg is a huge community involved individual. He's the owner of Triggs. He started way back in 1972 in Land O'Lakes. And talk about an icon, hardworking individual that stayed with it and created these beautiful grocery stores. I can't speak for Triggs, but it's just it's a good place to work, and they allow me to create and do my thing. And we create a really beautiful wine shop that competes and rivals to anybody in the big cities. So,
is there any particular business individuals or people that you'd love to just give a shout out to?
There's a ton.
Yep.
I'm really not giving. The truth of the matter is, in all my volunteer work throughout the Midwest and Chicago, I have never seen more supportive community about volunteering than any other place I've been in North America.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Greenheck Foundation, the Alexander Foundation, Brian at the Boys and Girls, John Noel with the Boys and Girls, Kevin Noel, everybody, Bob Lamovic from the neighborhood place. It's just the onslaught of support you get for these events. And I've been an Elks member for a long time, and they do a lot of good things as well. Just people that do it and continue to do without being noticed is really what you're supposed to be doing in the first place.
Yeah.
And Troy Brown, I mean, just people that just amazing. And I don't know how they do it and still work. I mean, I had to cut back. I just don't know how they can continue. Everybody does an amazing job. Even the CVB, the chamber is amazing. Wausau Events, Wausau Events has got a nice event coming up on the 26th at the Elks Club that we help establish. It's a beer tasting, but a lot of the money goes to a lot of area contributions and so forth. It's ongoing. Everybody's interacting with everybody.
Yeah. So a lot of philanthropy and business just kind of working together to make things happen.
Yeah, and, the downtown. How do they restore the downtown, and how they took that Washington Square, and Brian and those guys did an amazing job with that, and how they're trying to. Now you understand why Wausau's the place to be and the place to work, and it's not hard. I mean, I've only been here I think 14, 15 years, and I can realize from what the Dudleys did. Oh my God, the Dudleys, and what they did with that building, and what it created a whole new venue and a new development in that area. Yeah. I mean, you go on and on. It's everybody.
Yeah.
It's not one person. It's everybody. Everybody contributes. Everybody helps everybody out here. And then I've never seen that before. I mean, the runs. Everything. It's hard to explain that. Hard to explain.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a wonderful career, and it sounds like for you, definitely like by not burning any bridges, always keeping in connections with people, that's been able to help you professionally over the many years that you've been working.
Absolutely. I still got business cards from 25 years. I still have Evan Goldstein from Full Circle Wine Solution, who writes books for the California wine country, and I kept my business cards and I kept those relationships open, and I still believe in writing notes and cards and making phone calls and shaking hands. And we still have a job to do. We can't rest on our laurels. We still got to promote. This store supports a lot of events throughout this area. A ton of events. There's not a person that doesn't know that we support this community. And that's what a good grocery store should do.
Yeah.
That's what a good manager should do. It's not always punching the clock. I mean, I could be making a lot more money doing a lot of other things.
Absolutely.
But if you have that balance, and you have that balance in here, I mean, 5 minutes from your house. When I lived in Chicago and LA, and you ever had to do that commute, you would understand how I appreciate and that commute's crazy. And you know, going to work and really having good balance and making a living. And I live on the southeast side of Memorial Park. And it's just, you know, good people live in that area, and it's a good community. And that was the older part of Wausau, and right by Memorial Park. And I live 5 minutes from work. It's hard to complain about anything, to be honest with you, about what they've done with the development, the streets. It's a good community. I think their intentions are to do the right thing. I think they're trying to do the right thing. We're always so critical of our mayor. I think he does a great job. Our mayor does a great job. I think everybody that supports this community wants to do the right thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, for those of you that are around and you want to be able to come talk with Bruce, he can give you a wealth of knowledge, not only from the wine, obviously the industry you've been in for a number of years, even before the boom. So at the same time, he knows how business works and merriment of business and philanthropy. Just a great way to do things. So appreciate it. Thanks again for listening here on Top of Mind, and talk to you guys soon.